Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's wonderful to see so many faces here today to honor our veterans on Veterans Day. I'm Colonel Pete Crane, Vice President of Education and Access at the National World War II Museum, and it's my pleasure to welcome you today to our Veterans Day commemoration jointly hosted with the New Orleans Mayor's Military Advisory Committee. To begin today's program, please stand as the Color Guard presents our nation's colors and the Victory Bells perform the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you. Please be seated. For those of you who have been at our programs before, you know we have a tradition, a wonderful tradition, to start by recognizing World War II veterans, home front workers, and Holocaust survivors who are in the audience. I'm thrilled today to be able to say that we are joined by 19 veterans from across the country who are participating in the Soaring Valor program. Also, I'd like to thank those veterans for making the trek to New Orleans for this special occasion. And thanks to the Gary Sinise Foundation for generously providing the transportation for our Soaring Valor participants. This is truly your museum. We're also honored to have several other World War II veterans in attendance this morning. So I would like to, at this point, list by name all of the veterans who are with us, because it is a wonderful thing to have them here. And in the last few years, we just haven't had that many. But today, we're setting a new record, even beating last night. So we have Nicholas Maguvo from the Navy, John Genowait. Absolutely. Please do clap. John Greenwade, who was in both the Army and the Navy. LeGrand Dawes, who was in the Marine Corps. Alvin Johnson, U.S. Navy. Whitney Duhan, U.S. Army. Thomas Kearney, U.S. Navy. William Balabano, Merchant Marines. James Boyd, Marine Corps. Milton Wood, U.S. Navy. Jesse Dunbar, U.S. Navy. Alan Chatwin, also U.S. Navy. Bill McIntyre, U.S. Army. Jack Stowe, U.S. Army Air Corps. Robert Persichetti, U.S. Navy. Siegfried Weintal, U.S. Army. Charles Moore, U.S. Navy. Thomas Bostick, U.S. Army. Joseph Grossman, U.S. Navy. And V.L. Wilterdink, her name's Virginia, but she likes to go by V.L., U.S. Army Nurse Corps. Those were our friends from the Gary Sinise Foundation, but we also have with us today some other special veterans. We have Dr. Tom Fitzpatrick, who was a B-17 navigator and gunner in World War II. We also have Mr. William Levesque, U.S. Navy. Donald Sperrier, Merchant Marines. Charles McCarty, Navy. And our very own museum trustee and former board chairman, Paul Hilliard, who is here with us today. Paul, a Marine Corps veteran, served as a radioman and gunner in an SBD Dauntless dive bomber, just like the one above us right here. Flew over 30 missions in the Philippines in World War II. So it's wonderful to have him with us, of course. At this point, are there any other World War II veterans, Holocaust survivors, or home front workers that we did not recognize? We do have another one in. Sir, thank you for being with us here today. Ralph Hopkins. And over here. And sir, I want to read your name out too. What's your name? John Tawsey, U.S. Navy Seabees. Leo Pretorius, U.S. Navy. So what a wonderful addition. We now have 28 veterans, if I counted that correctly. That's the most we have had since before COVID. But today is about all veterans, and we have some other very special veterans joining us here today. We have Mr. Melvin Morris, U.S. Army veteran of the Vietnam War, a Special Forces soldier, and recipient of the Congressional Medal of Honor. Sir, thank you for being here. We also have Sergeant First Class William McInnes, who served 20 years in the U.S. Army and is representing the Louisiana Department of Veterans Affairs from the Governor's Office. Thank you for joining us, Sergeant First Class McInnes. We also have Lieutenant General Jay Garner with us this morning. He served as the first director of Coalition Provisional Authority to rebuild Iraq in 2003 and is here with his fellow veterans from the 108th Brigade, the Eifel Gang from Germany in the 1970s. Thank you for joining us, General Garner. And now I'd like to recognize any other veterans in the audience with us today. If you ever wore our nation's uniform in times of war or peace, please stand and be recognized. Thank you all for joining us on the museum on this very important day. We're truly privileged to have an incredible network of supporters and partners who champion our mission every day and help us carry out our work. This morning, we're joined by our board chairman, Ted Wegland, and his wife, Jennifer, and many of the other trustees and their families. Thank you all for being here with us today and all the work you do to support the World War II Museum. Veterans Day is one of the many commemorative days that we honor here and celebrate at the World War II Museum. And we'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank our presenting sponsor, the Gary Sinise Foundation, which is hosting our very first group Soaring Valor trip since before the pandemic began. Thank you to the Gary Sinise Foundation. And we're also grateful for the support of the many other sponsors who have helped make today's commemoration possible. The People's Health, Navy Federal Credit Union, Chevron Veterans Network, AARP Louisiana, and Boeing. Thank you for your support. At this time, I'd like to welcome our President and CEO, Stephen Watson, to the stage.
Well, good morning, and thank you, Pete. And before I get into my prepared remarks, there's one other person we missed this morning that I need to recognize, and that's my good friend, Mr. Robert Levy, who's here in the first row. Also a World War II veteran, was on an LST, landed on Omaha Beach on D-Day, was here on opening day of the National D-Day Museum, June 6, 2000, and proudly still has his ticket stub from that day. And we've become good friends over the years. And just a short story, 3 years ago when he was here, he was wearing a Chicago Cubs jacket, and we started talking about the Cubs. And he said, I've been a Cubs fan for 89 years, and I've never been to a game. And I said, well, I think I can help with that, because one of our trustees is Todd Ricketts, who owns the Chicago Cubs. So I made a phone call, and later that summer, Mr. Levy and his family went to Chicago and were honored guests. Unfortunately, they lost, I think, a doubleheader that day. But hey, if you've been a Cubs fan for 89 years, you know that there's a lot of losing in your fandom. So anyway, Mr. Levy, it's always a privilege to have you here at the museum. And thanks to all of you for being here. Every day at the National World War II Museum is a good day, but this is a special day for obvious reasons. And it's really a day where we can just emphasize the importance of our mission, which is to honor the men and women who have served our country and secured the liberty that we enjoy today. And I think as you go through the museum today, you will see this in our exhibits that incorporate the personal stories of the veterans, that emphasize the valor, the camaraderie, and the sacrifice emblematic of what it takes to put on a uniform in the U.S. Armed Forces. It's at the very core of our mission, these stories. And we're also very grateful to have just an amazing cohort of charter members and Patriot Circle members who also understand the importance of this mission. We like to brag around here a little bit that we have the largest grassroots base of support of any museum in the country of any kind, almost 200,000 charter members, that this museum wouldn't exist today without their support. And I know that many of you in the audience are in that number. And yes, let's pause for a round of applause for that. And in July, we called upon our charter members and our Patriot Circle members to help us pay tribute to all who have served our country. We mailed out over 200,000 fabric roses to construct a special wreath, which we are pleased to unveil here today. Over 8,000 of you, I know many of you in this audience, answered that call, returning those fabric roses to help with this endeavor. So this wreath that you see to my right is, I think, a beautiful visual representation of our dedicated family of members who over the past 22 years have provided over $100 million of support to help nurture and grow the museum that you see today. And I know that many of you did this because it's personal. You have family members that served during World War II, and you wanted to make sure that you did your part to honor their service and their sacrifice at America's National World War II Museum. So please join me once again in giving a round of applause to all of our Charter and Patriot Circle members. Thank you. I think simply put, it's your support that allows us to advance our educational outreach programs and make programs like today possible. So I think many of you also know that the city of New Orleans has deep roots in military service, and the city's contributions during World War II are an important part of our museum. Of course, from the service of the sons and daughters, the ingenuity of Andrew Higgins, visitors from around the world come here to this museum and understand the important role that New Orleans played during World War II. We are always grateful to the City of New Orleans and the Mayor's Military Advisory Committee for supporting our region's military installations and for their continued recognition of military service through their partnership in programs like the one we have today. And in just a moment, I'm going to turn things over to Major General David Mize, who has played an instrumental role in our Veterans Day commemoration, really all of our military commemorations over many, many years. Major General Mize graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy at Annapolis in 1969, as did his father, Charles Mize. And they, I think, are one of 6 father and son Marine pair to achieve the flag rank. He had an active duty career that spanned 34 years, including serving as the commanding general of Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune. And he now serves as the chairman of the Mayor's Military Advisory Committee. And just one other comment outside of my remarks, I believe he was also the commanding general of Marine Force Reserve and had a major role in the opening of the National D-Day Museum on June 6, 2000, which was an official Department of Defense event. And of all of the major things we've done, I still don't think we've topped that opening weekend in 2000. And he has just been an amazing friend to this museum over the last 22 years. So please join me in welcoming Major General David Mize.
Well, welcome. First thing I'm going to do is apologize in advance for my voice. Last night I was at the 247th celebration of the Marine Corps birthday at the Superdome, which was a fabulous event, and I'm afraid I did too many oorahs and Semper Fi's and trying to talk over the band, so my vocal cords took a little hit. So I apologize, but I just want to let you know it was for a good cause that I was, my vocal cords have suffered here today. So on behalf of the Mayor's Military Advisory Committee, I'd like to extend my welcome to all of you who are celebrating Veterans Day with us at this wonderful event that is co-hosted by the City of New Orleans and the National World War II Museum. I also want to send out greetings to the large audience that I cannot see, those of you who are streaming our event on the museum's social media sites. It is exciting that we are now able to extend our reach and share our events with a lot more supporters around the region and even the country. I also want to give my sincerest thanks to the National World War II Museum for continuing to be the best possible partner for veterans and military support groups. It remains hard to imagine a better venue than this magnificent hall to commemorate American veterans. So once more, our great appreciation goes out to CEO Stephen Watson, Vice President Pete Crane, and Maggie Hartley and the museum staff who make all this magic happen. I also want to add my appreciation to some distinguished leaders that we have here today, Lieutenant General Garner, Rear Admiral Olson, Major General Sands, who with their presence, they add to the prestige of our event and help us properly celebrate and commemorate our veterans. In recognizing people, I also cannot recognize somebody who is our longest tenured member of the Mayor's Military Advisory Committee, somebody that I would be pretty confident has been to more Veterans Day ceremonies than anybody else in the city of New Orleans right now, and that's a person who's a former chairman of the City Council and a state representative, Jackie Clarkson. Jackie, thanks for all you've done for us. Another Veterans Day is here, and we've always owed a great debt of gratitude to our veterans as you think about World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and the Cold War. But it's never been more important or appropriate to give our newest group of American veterans our love and support. Let's consider what the newly minted generation of veterans have done for us. They fought in Afghanistan, the longest war our country has ever engaged in, and that forever war was in some of the most rugged and inhospitable terrain in the world. And it's also where they had to operate in a culture that is so difficult for Westerners to understand. They fought in the worldwide war on terrorism, which has been going on in particular ferocity since the 9/11 attacks on the United States. This pitted our veterans against some of the most fanatical and vicious opponents in our history. The constant combat operations required over the last 30 years in Iraq and Afghanistan have led some of our veterans to be deployed 2, 3, 4, 5, and even in some cases 6 and 7 times into combat zones. So during their tenure in the military, they made great and continuous sacrifices. But only about 0.3%, let me say that again, 0.3% of the American population were serving on active duty at any given time during these past years. So our veterans were bearing this difficult burden of America's wars and fight against foreign terrorism almost alone. Other U.S. citizens have not been appreciably impacted by the difficult combat and extreme sacrifice that our veterans and their families have borne over the last 30 years. Our newest veterans have also provided invaluable aid to their countrymen as they helped in hurricane rescues and community recovery, assisted in fighting wildfires out west, and provided key support during the COVID crisis by sending military medical personnel to overstretched hospitals, overseeing the national distribution of vaccines, and staffing mass vaccination sites. There's also a new and growing reason we need to support and venerate our veterans. In our all-volunteer American military, we only produce the armed forces we need if young people are willing to volunteer for the military and become veterans. As we look at the world landscape today, the threats to the United States have not been greater in a long time. Consider the capabilities and the intentions of China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. In the past, it was a very common thing for our male population to have been in the military. In the American male population that is 75 years old or older right now, 43% of them are veterans. In the male population in the age group 18 to 24 years old today, only 3.1% of that group are veterans. So other than hearing about the hardships and challenges for the military in the news, our younger population has had little knowledge or direct affinity for the military. This has helped to lead some significant problems in recruiting for the U.S. military. In the last government fiscal year, which ended on 30 September, the Marine Corps was the only service to meet their recruiting goals. The Army was apparently only achieved about 75% of their recruiting goals, leading to a significant shortfall in the end strength of the Army, which is crucial to our national defense. So we're going to have to do all we can as a country to get the qualified recruits we so badly need for our military in a very dangerous world. Celebrating and showing the respect we have for our warriors and veterans is one way that we can help this crucial effort to continue to field a great military for the United States of America. So for all the reasons I have mentioned above, it is truly appropriate that our city joins communities around the world in celebrating and saying thanks to our great military veterans. In our all-volunteer force, they stepped up to what they knew would be a difficult challenge even when they did not have to. I ask those in attendance to give our veterans a big round of well-deserved applause. God bless America. I now have the honor of introducing our next distinguished speaker, the Mayor of New Orleans, LaToya Cantrell. The Mayor has several veterans in her family, and she understands the sacrifices that veterans have made and the pride they received from their service. Since she has been the Mayor of New Orleans, she is proudly committed to all of our Veterans Day and Armed Forces Day activities. So we really appreciate all the time she takes to honor those with military service. This sends a great signal to our veterans and the military in our region about what a great partner she and the city of New Orleans are. We thank her for her leadership of the city and her continuing support of the veterans. I turn the podium over to the Honorable LaToya Cantrell, Mayor of New Orleans.
Good morning. Thank you so much, General, for your comments, of course, for your introduction. On behalf of the City of New Orleans, I am here in full capacity to say thank you. Thank you to all who have served in whatever military capacity that you've offered. You've done it with distinction, you've done it with extreme sacrifice, courage, and real service to the United States of America, and I, on behalf of this city, says thank you. As General Mize mentioned, yes, through and through in regards to my family, over 175 years of collected service to all military branches in the United States, and that is something that I am proud of, I continue to be inspired by, but also carrying the responsibility to ensure that All those who serve are met with the true recognition and love that they deserve every step of the way. But as mayor of the city of New Orleans, and I've been serving in this capacity now for a little over 4 years, in that 4-year capacity, I've signed over 15 emergency declarations. Now, being especially grateful for the local military that we have in the city of New Orleans, I'm telling you, and as serving as the mayor, it doesn't get any better when you're in the foxhole and you need the support. Who do you turn to? This community every day and every step of the way has turned to our armed forces, and for that, I continue to be extremely grateful, so thank you once again. And I will also have to say that serving in this capacity, I don't serve alone. Beside me, I have veterans who continue to give their all by my side, whether that is leading the Sewage and Water Board utility. Admiral Callahan has been a strong force in that, whether it is my deputy CAO of infrastructure, Mr. Joseph Threat, who served as a Marine, whether that is a woman, strong woman leading the Office of Community Development and Housing for the city of New Orleans. Let me tell you, these individuals continue to serve this city, and therefore serving not only the city and not only the state, but the United States of America, and serving at a time that is truly unprecedented. So while this city, when we think about COVID-19, we were the hot spot in the nation. But because of that, we were, and again, because of that local capacity that we have, we were the first city in the country to stand up a drive-through testing site only because of the assets of our military forces on the ground. And I know that that organizing effort earlier on in March of 2020 paved the way for this city to stand, and this city to stand in regards to our recovery, and one that we can be proud of. And here recently, the city of New Orleans was acknowledged as being one of the top cities, one of 10 in the country, highlighted as the fastest growing city out of this pandemic. That is because, again, of the sacrifices and the service and dedication of our armed forces that are boots on the ground for this city, showing up every step of the way. So for that, I say thank you, and that's something that we should all be proud of, and I am as the mayor of this city. So with that, I say thank you for your continued service, sacrifices, and dedication. It has not gone unnoticed, and it will not. But I will end on this, and it's something that General Mize touched upon. One thing, freedom is not free, right? It takes, again, that sacrifice and that courage. And we're at a time in our country that we need to improve and increase the numbers who are willing to serve. So at this time, I'm just making a real plea to do everything that we can to grow our armed forces, because the time to do it is now. So as we're looking for those individuals to step up and serve in this capacity, and even as mayor, I'm looking for individuals to serve even law enforcement regarding our New Orleans Police Department. So the shortages are real, the sacrifices are real, but the time is now. So with that, let's give it all we can, because the future of our freedoms, the future of this country depends upon our ability to act today. So thank you so much. God bless you. God bless the city of New Orleans, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
It's now my pleasure to introduce the principal speaker for our Veterans Day ceremony, Captain Lena Kamen. She's the daughter of a Navy veteran. She graduated from college with a Bachelor's of Art in French, so she fits into our semi-Francophile culture in Louisiana very well. Captain Kamen continued her education over the years, and she has been awarded 2 master's degrees. She graduated from Naval Flight School and earned her wings in 2002 and has principally flown the SH-60B helicopters. Altogether, she has flown over 4,200 hours in naval aircraft. Among the many highlights in her career are a deployment to Iraq and a tour as the commanding officer of a helicopter training squadron. She is married to her husband, Christian, and they have twin sons, affectionately known as the Twin Tornadoes. Captain Kamen is currently the commanding officer of Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base, New Orleans, located in Belle Chase. The military jets you see flying over the city and the Coast Guard helicopters that come to rescue you all come from her base. Besides being a large military base, Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base is one of the biggest drivers of our local economy. Captain Kamen, we appreciate you joining us today, and we look forward to your remarks.
Good morning. Thank you, General Mize, for the kind introduction, and thank you to you on behalf of the Mayor's Military Advisory Committee, and also to Stephen Watson and the World War II Museum for inviting me to join you today. Welcome to Sergeant First Class Morris and all distinguished guests. I am honored to be here today representing the over 7,000 joint service members and DoD civilians who live and work on the base that I command, Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base, New Orleans, as we pay tribute to all of those who have served in our military through the years and who continue to serve. Veterans, we are here today to celebrate and honor you and your legacy. And what a special and sacred place for a celebration. These buildings, structures, and exhibits are filled with so many memories, so many legacies, and so many stories of service lives lived and service lives given. This day, above all, is an opportunity to celebrate the choice one makes to serve their country. For some, it meant the worldwide conflict of World War II, or a lifetime of peacekeeping missions, or the tense standoff of the Cold War. Others, like my father, Chief Gunner's Mate Clayton Bittner, found themselves in the jungles of Vietnam. Others fought in Korea, Panama, Iraq, Afghanistan, or any of the other countries or conflicts we have asked our military to serve over the years. To paraphrase Thomas Paine, those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must undergo the fatigue of supporting it. Many of you here today have carried that burden and experienced the fatigue of waging war in order to bring about peace or supporting those who did. To you, I say thank you. Thank you for setting the example that inspired me and my peers to raise our hands in voluntary service to this great nation and to carry on your legacy. That shared service joins us together like no other bond. The camaraderie and fellowship we share in military service often profoundly changes us and redirects our paths in life. I can honestly say that I have cherished every minute of my over 22 years in the United States Navy, and that my service, even after I retire, will stay with me and define me until the day I die. One of the themes of this year's celebration is letters and legacy. I mentioned my father, a retired Navy chief, a minute ago. I'd like to share just a little of his legacy with you, as well as a couple of the letters that are special to me. My dad joined the Navy at the end of the Korean War in 1952, when he was only 16, by forging his parents' signatures on his recruiting paperwork. He was looking for something bigger than himself and bigger than the small Wisconsin town that he lived in. He was a proud gunner's mate and a proud tin can sailor. Who knows what that means? That means he served on the mighty destroyer-type warships. He served in the Navy for a full career, retiring before he even met my mother or before I was born. The letters he wrote home to his parents and siblings during his many deployments have unfortunately been lost. But what I'd like to share with you is a letter he wrote to me during my first deployment in 2004. I was deployed on the USS Leyte Gulf, a cruiser, in the Persian Gulf off the coast of Iraq for Operations Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom. We flew our helicopters from sunset to sun up, patrolling the waters and protecting freedom of the seas. The date on this note that I keep in my scrapbook at home is April 3rd, 2004. Dear Lena, I'm sorry to hear that sea duty isn't to your liking, but I'm glad to hear you like the port calls and the liberty. No one likes the duty station that they are on at times, and sometimes we don't like the people we are deployed with. Some are better off in the sea than on sea duty. Always remember that you are a naval officer and work hard to let others know that. Love, the Chief. His sense of humor, coupled with knowing that he had been there, done that, got me through the tough times of a combat deployment. I would also like to share a letter that my mother wrote to me during that deployment. She is not a veteran, but definitely a veteran supporter. The date on this letter is February 2nd, 2004. Dear Lena, you'll be gone out to sea on your birthday, so I'm sending this note early. Thinking of you and hoping you stay well. Remember, you are loved. Always try to do what is right. Then you will come out on top. Love, Mom. The families and loved ones of service members play such an important part in the legacy of the veterans. They are the support system and the encouragement we need to face perils and challenges. And I'm so thankful for their dedication and the sacrifices they make to support us. For you in the audience, for the parents, spouses, children, and other loved ones and family members, thank you so much for all you do. We could not serve without you. I'd like to have a round of applause for all the loved ones. Before I wrap up my remarks, I would like to suggest 2 ways that you can continue to honor service members, past and present. Once today is over, we should honor veterans always, not just on Veterans Day. First, as General Mize and Mayor Cantrell suggested, I also suggest making an effort to promote military service for our youth. We need to let our younger generation know that the military is a viable and valuable career option with unlimited opportunities. Opportunities to learn a new skill, have fun, achieve goals, make lifelong shipmates, and travel the world. We need smart, capable young men and women to join to carry on our legacy of service. Second, if you are a veteran, please share your story with others. Let everyone know what you've done so they can see the many faces of military service and appreciate the personal service of their neighbors. If you are willing, record your story of service and submit it to a museum's Living History project so your legacy will never fade. The more we talk about what we do and the impact military service has had on our lives, the better able we are to hold it up as an example of excellence. President Dwight D. Eisenhower once said, "The history of freedom is never really written by chance, but by choice." Today, we give thanks to live in a country where citizens from every generation willingly and courageously chose to raise their hands to stand the watch. America's choice of freedom manifests itself in the Constitution. From the earliest days of the Republic to today, we remain a people committed to freedom, tolerance, and inclusion for all. We have chosen this path of freedom, but as you know, it is not without costs. Our freedoms and values are defended and maintained at a steep price, secured only through the blood and sacrifice of those brave American heroes willing to confront the dangers of the world in order to protect the American way of life. I know you all recognize that and appreciate what they do, or else you wouldn't be here today. In closing, we have many, many legacies of courage, service, and sacrifice to reflect on today. Let's use this opportunity now and on Veterans Days in the years to come to celebrate service to our nation, to demonstrate the appreciation we have for the military, and to inspire future generations to dedicate themselves in the name of the many who have come before them. Thank you for allowing me to celebrate with you today. Happy Veterans Day. It is now my pleasure to introduce the Belle Chase Academy performers. Located on board the base I command, Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base, New Orleans, is Belle Chase Academy. This is a state charter school that is chartered specifically to meet the unique educational needs of our military members who move frequently and whose military parents deploy periodically. Belle Chase Academy is an A-rated school which serves over 800 military students in the grades of kindergarten through 8th grade from throughout the whole entire greater New Orleans area. This morning, 3 of their talented middle school student groups from their drama, marching, and the Leader in Me programs are here to share their talents with you in honor of Veterans Day. Please join me in welcoming the students of Belle Chase Academy for a performance piece, followed by musical entertainment.
Good morning. My name's Alejandra Guzman. I attend Belle Chase Academy, a school that specializes in the education of military-dependent children. It is my honor, honestly, it's my honor to participate in today's ceremony because I myself am the daughter of an Army veteran who fought in Operation Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom. On December 17th, 1944, New Orleans native 1st Marine Lieutenant Leonard Isaacs penned a heartfelt Christmas letter to his 2 sons. He told them to help their mother and how, being so far away himself, that would be the best Christmas present he could imagine. In light of German and Japanese aggression, he preached to his little boys to never be bullies, stand up for the smaller fellow, and urge them to have the courage to do the things they think are right. My Belle Chase Academy classmate, Baron Schilla, will read an excerpt from First Lieutenant Leonard Isaac's letter.
My dear little boys, I won't be able to give you a Christmas present personally this year, but I do want you to know that I think of you all the time and feel very proud of the way that you've been helping your mother while I'm gone. I know that it is only natural for young, healthy, and strong boys like you to want to play and have fun all the time. But I do want you to think about helping Mommy, because it is so hard for her to do everything while I'm gone. I know that you would like to give me a Christmas present too, so I will tell you what you can do, and this will be the Christmas present to me. Every day, ask Mommy if there are any errands you can go on for her, and when there are errands to run, say, "Sure, Mommy," and give her a big smile. Then during the day, go up to your room and look around. If there are any toys scattered all around, or you left some of your clothes on the floor, pick them up. Also, when Mommy is busy trying to clean up the house, don't leave her by herself, but ask Mommy if you can help take care of your baby sister. If you do these things for me, that will be the finest Christmas present that you could give me. Well, my boys, I guess you often wonder why people fight and have wars, and why lots of daddies have to be away at Christmas time fighting, when it would be so much nicer to be at home. That's a hard question to answer. But you see, some countries like Japan and Germany have people living in them, just like some people you and I know. These people want to tell everybody what they can do and what they can't do. No one likes to be told how to live their life, and I know you certainly wouldn't like it if one of the boys in the neighborhood tried to tell you what church you should go to, or what school you should go to, and particularly if that boy would always try to beat up some other smaller, weaker boy. You wouldn't like that, would you? And unfortunately, the only way to make a person like that stop these sort of things, or a country like Japan and Germany, is to fight them and beat them, and teach them that being a bully, because after all, that's what they are, is not the way to live, and that we can't put up with it. What does this all mean to you? Just simply this, my boys. Dad doesn't want you to ever be a bully. I don't want you to always fight against anyone who tries to be one. I want you to always help the smaller fellow, or the little boy who may not be as strong as you. I want you to always share what you have with the other fellow. And above all, my boys, have courage. Have courage to do the things that you think are right. To do these things, you need to be a strong body and a brave heart. Never run away from someone who you might be afraid of. If you do, you will feel ashamed of yourself, and before long, you will find it easy to run away from the things that you should stand up and fight against. If you and lots of other boys try to do the things that Dad has been talking about in this letter, it may be that people will not have to fight in years to come, and then all the daddies in the world will be home for Christmas, and that is where they belong. Perhaps some of the things in this letter you've been talking about, you don't quite understand. If you don't, Mommy will explain them to you, as she knows. A Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Daddy.
First Lieutenant Leonard Isaacs never got to deliver this lesson in person. He died just 2 months later after Japanese mortar fire fatally wounded him. He was buried at sea, leaving behind his wife and 3 children. First Lieutenant Leonard Isaacs, 34 at the time of his death, earned a Purple Heart posthumously for his service. Thank you for your sacrifice, dedication, and service. Happy Veterans Day. Now, welcoming Belle Chase Academy's middle school brass band, led by Mr. Trey Cummings, they will perform 2 songs for us.
I love it. The Battle Hymn of the Republic, performed in New Orleans style. Thank you to the students of the Belle Chase Academy for that heartfelt performance in honor of our veterans and military service members. You know, one of the groups that we didn't highlight earlier is the fact that the families of service members also serve. And one of the things that makes Belle Chase Academy unique is that each student is the child of a current service member. These young people understand all too well the sacrifices of our nation's military makes to keep us all safe, not just the service members, but their families as well. Sacrifices span generations, from World War II to Korea and Vietnam to contemporary conflicts in the Middle East. The legacy of service and sacrifice binds our military to the past. The dramatic reading of the letter from First Lieutenant Leonard Isaacs a few moments ago was just one of the untold stories across history conveying the pain of a father writing to his child while serving in combat. Chaplain Carol Hamilton, who served in the Pacific Theater during World War II, wrote to his son that it's certain that your daddy will see action and plenty of it. So whether I come back or not, always remember that your daddy went for your sake and for you who are growing up, that you may have peace and liberty of every kind. Excerpts from the letters written by First Lieutenant Isaacs and Chaplain Hamilton are among the many first-hand accounts featured in Expressions of America, our new nighttime sound and light experience that premiered just last night. Joining us today is Nicole Killian, congressional correspondent for CBS News in Washington, D.C. She is also the granddaughter of Staff Sergeant James Killian, Jr., another veteran featured in Expressions of America. So please join me in welcoming Nicole to the stage.
Thank you, and good morning. I just first want to start off by saying how truly humbled and honored I am to be in the midst of so many heroes this morning. Thank you so much for your service. We salute you. You know, one of the parts of my job that I love so much, being a correspondent for CBS News, is that I get to meet so many different types of people, and I get to tell their stories. That is one of the reasons, honestly, I became a journalist. And so I have covered a number of World War II veterans and their stories through, for instance, doing features on the honor flights that come to Washington, D.C. and the National World War II Memorial, but also profiling a number of individuals, including people who worked on the home front, like Phyllis Gould, who was a Rosie out in California, recently passed away. And so, one thing that really strikes me when I tell these stories is that these were and are ordinary people doing the extraordinary. Ordinary people doing the extraordinary. And that was my grandfather, Staff Sergeant James Harrison Killian, Jr. He was a member of the U.S. Army Quartermaster Corps, serving in England and France from June 1944 to December 1945. We lost him about 25 years ago, but when he was alive, he didn't really share a lot about his service, at least that I can recall as a child growing up, beyond, saying a few French or German expressions that he picked up during his time overseas. But fast forward to today, where his words and his story are in this museum and featured in this new Expressions of America experience. And that really all came about because of my uncle, who discovered these letters that my grandfather had written while he was serving, letters that he wrote to my late grandmother, to my great-grandparents, to my great-uncle, checking in to see how they were doing, opining about how long his tour would last, or just simply expressing how much he loved them. And our family donated those letters here to the National World War II Museum over the summer. They have also since been compiled into a new book. And of course, as I just mentioned, they are now featured in this new Expressions of America experience, which I hope you get to check out if you haven't already done so. And in this process that has really just come together so magnificently, I have learned so much about my grandfather that I didn't know. And so I hope that you too get to learn more about his story and about the stories of so many other remarkable individuals who are featured in this new experience. And so at this time, I do want to acknowledge any other family members who might be here whose loved ones are also featured in the new Expressions of America experience. If you're here, if you would just briefly stand or wave. So again, we thank you for your loved ones and for their service and for being here today. Again, happy Veterans Day. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your reflections, Nicole, and for joining us to celebrate our nation's great legacy of service. It was truly a privilege to have many of you join us last night at the premiere of the Expressions of America, which will be an ongoing tribute to your grandfather and to members of the World War II generation. Expressions of America immerses audiences in the written words, the songs, personal reflections of everyday men and women who served their country in every imaginable way during World War II. Generously presented by the Bob and Dolores Hope Foundation, Expressions combines the latest outdoor projection technology with original material from the museum's collection to allow audiences to experience the stories of the World War II generation like never before. Please turn your attention to the screens for an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at Expressions of America.
Expressions of America is not like anything you've seen at any other museum. This is an immersive experience, large-scale projections, surround sound, incredible music, incredible performance moments that engulf you and engulf your senses.
The design process was interesting for Expressions of America because when we began, the center building wasn't even built yet. So we had to come and stand here on the parade grounds and look to our left and see a building, look to the right and see a building, and look to the middle and see absolutely nothing, and pre-visualize what it would look like to be projecting on a facade that was years away from being fabricated.
The audience that see it will learn a lot about the ordinary, everyday Americans that went to war. They set their tools down, they set their work down, they raised their hands, and they went to war. You'll learn that through the stories and the letters that are shared in Expressions of America.
Letters are such an important piece of World War II history. They were written at a time when the outcome of the war was uncertain. They're primary source material that are incredibly important to telling the story of World War II.
We don't tell the audience what to think or to feel. We just want you to meet these people, and then you decide how you're going to feel about them. And you're going to meet people I sure wish I could have met.
I think my dad would have been very proud to have been part of Expressions of America because, first of all, it's innovative. I mean, it's very new and it's fresh and it's exciting, and that would have appealed to him. And then to be there amongst the men and women that he respected the most would have been a great honor for him, and to be memorialized that way, I think would have been very touching and meaningful for him.
You'll experience the music of the time, which the music of that time is so interesting when you think about it, because it was such a dark period. Yet when you listen to the music of the time, it's uplifting. It lifts your spirits.
As the music producer for this project, I've been involved for a number of years now, and so part of the creative process was picking the material and working with the museum as well when they were picking the letters that we were using. So it was about selecting the songs that told our story and fit with the letters of these, veterans that we are showcasing in this show.
For Expressions of America, what I hope people walk away with is a sense of the honor, duty, and commitment, how each individual stepped up in a time of need and gave what they could give. And I hope that they take away a sense of honor and respect, and maybe even question for themselves, what would I do if I were in that situation?
We're thrilled to finally share Expressions of America with all of you. Tickets are available for shows beginning tomorrow at 7 p.m. For those watching online, Expressions is a new permanent attraction available year-round on our campus, and we can't wait for you to join us and experience it on your next visit. You can purchase your tickets online at expressionsofamerica.org or here at the museum. As we conclude today's program, we'd like to thank our ceremony's participants, Marine Forces Reserve Color Guard and Band, Major General David Mize, Chairman of the Mayor's Military Advisory Committee, the Honorable Mayor of New Orleans, Mayor LaToya Cantrell, Captain Lena Kamen, Commanding Officer of Naval Air Station Joint Reserve Base, Belle Chase, the Belle Chase Academy, and CBS News Congressional Correspondent Nicole Killian. Thank you again also to our sponsors, the Gary Sinise Foundation, People's Health, the Navy Federal Credit Union, Chevron Veterans Network, AARP Louisiana, and Boeing. Thanks to Medal of Honor recipient Melvin Morris and former Secretary of the Army Louis Caldera for joining us today. Also, thanks to everyone who joined us here in person and watched online. We definitely appreciate it. But especially thank you to the 29 World War II veterans that joined us here today. Before you leave the U.S. Freedom Pavilion, the Boeing Center today, if you are a veteran or military service member, please be sure to grab a letter that the students of Belle Chase Academy have written for you. Thanks again to this remarkable group of young people and their great work. And of course, I have one more great plug for you. Please join us here again on the 10th of December for our first Army-Navy game watch party. The doors will open at 1:30. The game will start at 2. And shortly thereafter, the Army will beat the Navy. General Mize, that one was just for you. Thank you again, and take care, and we'll see you next time here again at the National World War II Museum.